There was a time when future looked like this. Vibrant skies, floating bubbles and glossy glass windows. It was called frutigeraero, and if you ever used Windows XP or 7 or Vista, you've seen it, even if you didn't know its name. I wasn't even born when Windows XP came out, but somehow this world felt like the future I was promised. So, what happened? And why does it feel like it's sort of coming back? Frutigeraero isn't the name of a product, it's the name of an aesthetic. It's named after the Fugitive font and the Aero UI in Windows Vista and 7. It emerged in the late 90s and early 2000s at a time when tech companies wanted to sell a vision. The future would be bright, clean and alive. You'd see it in operating systems, ads and even tech packaging. Vibrant skies, floating bubbles, smooth reflections, all of that. And especially the glossy transparency. Just think and try to remember Windows XP, Windows Media Player, and especially macOS. Back in the day, this is what made tech unique. This is what made people believe this was the future. To understand how Frutigeraero began, we have to go back to a very specific moment in time. The late 90s and early 2000s, a period when technology was becoming mass market and optimism about the digital future was at an all-time high. Microsoft was leading the charge. In 2001, they released Windows XP, and with it came a design language that defined the early 2000s. The Bliss wallpaper, that green hill and blue sky, it became iconic, but it wasn't just a pretty image. It was a mission statement, a symbol of a simpler world and a more peaceful digital age. XP introduced the lunar theme, vibrant colours, pill-shaped buttons, rounded windows. Everything looked soft and playful. It was approachable. You know, this is where tech wasn't irritating or cold or dry anymore. It felt like a toy. It felt like gateway, it was escapism. This is where you could escape from your boring lives and escape into this world of colour and experience the future firsthand. This was the gateway to the internet and everything beyond. Frutigeraero isn't a name Microsoft used officially. It's a term to describe a visual trend across the early to mid 2000s. It combines Frutiger, a clean modern sans serif font used widely in tech and transport, and Aero, the translucent glassy UI first fully released in Windows Vista and 7. This look, with its shiny glass buttons, floating bubbles, glowing lights and bright natural backgrounds, wasn't just on your PC. You saw it everywhere. Phone ads, MP3 players and even TV commercials. Companies wanted to sell you this future, and the future was shiny. Then came Windows Vista in 2007, and suddenly things went full aero. The UI wasn't just themed anymore, it was alive. Windows were translucent, glass effects blurred your desktop as you switched apps. It was unnecessary, but it was amazing. Finally, in 2009, Microsoft released Windows 7. It was faster, smoother, and even more refined. The peak of the Frutigeraero look. The taskbar glowed, widgets floated on the desktop, and even the shadows felt intentional. It was futuristic, but it was friendly. This was the aesthetic that defined the mid-2000s. A world where glass, bubbles and nature met digital design. It was dreamy. It was everywhere. It was the promised future. But like most dreams, Frutigeraero didn't last. With Windows 8, Microsoft dropped the glass of something called Metro UI. It was flat, blocky and minimal. Functional? Sure. But the soul, it was gone. All the character, all the fun, everything that Microsoft and all these companies had put together, gone within an instant. It wasn't just Microsoft. Design trends started shifting. Flat design, minimalism, clean lines, all of it replaced the fun and warmth of cold efficiency. Do you remember when iOS 7 came out? All the character disappeared straight away. I remember back in the day where I'd get up early just to go on my parents' computer so I could feel the future. So I could escape from school and homework and just be in this new realm of technology. It was incredible. By 2015, Frutigeraero was gone. It disappeared. And it wasn't just because of taste. Glass effects were resource heavy and phones were too weak to run those visual bubbles. I wasn't born when Windows XP came out, but then one day, when I was about 4, I went downstairs and I found my dad's laptop sitting on that glass table. It was dusty, scratched, and it was heavy as hell. And then, after searching around, I found the power on button. It booted up slow, painfully slow. But when it did, my jaw dropped. Everything was unique. It was the future, the glowing light, the shimmering, the bubbles. The second I got into that desktop, that was the first time I saw Aero. The windows were like glass. They were actual windows. Pressing the start button and seeing the blur, the glass, the shimmering. It was incredible. I spent hours just opening and closing windows. I didn't care about the internet or games. I was just obsessed with how the recycle bin glowed, and how the start menu faded in, and how dragging a window made it shine. I remember opening Windows Media Player and just staring at the visualizer for 15 minutes. That was the moment. That was when I felt it. This was what the future was supposed to be like. So, what happened? Why did we move away from something that felt so alive? Well, it turns out frutigeraero wasn't just a visual choice. It was also a performance cost. Aero's translucent effects, shadows and animated transitions, they looked beautiful, but they were demanding. Most computers in the early 2010s could hardly handle it without stuttering, and then came mobile. As the iPhone exploded and Android took over, design had to adapt. Phones had smaller screens, less power and lower battery capacity. All those glowy effects? Too heavy, too distracting. Around 2012 to 2014, the biggest players in tech, Microsoft, Apple and Google, all hit the same conclusion. Flat was the future. For Microsoft, with Windows 8, they ditched glass entirely and launched the Metro UI. Gone were the reflections and depth, replaced by flat tiles, solid colours and blocky fonts. It was efficient, but it was soulless. Aero died overnight. Apple killed off skeuomorphism in 2013 with iOS 7, ditching bubbly textures and shadows for thin lines and flat gradients. And then, even Google joined in. Their material design update in 2014 flattened their entire UI. Gmail, Android, Chrome, everything went pastel and clean. The Google logo lost its shadow, the Play Store became flat and geometric. Across the board, companies said the same thing. Flat design is cleaner, faster and more scalable. But in cutting the glass, they cut the wonder. Slowly, tech started feeling dull. frutigeraero didn't just disappear. It was engineered out, sacrificed in the name of utility. But it's 2025 now. Apple, especially with iOS 15 and beyond, brought back the blur effects, glassy widgets and nature-inspired gradients. And in iOS 26, it's everywhere. Soft lighting, organic animations and translucency. It's not full frutigeraero, but it's clear that the bubbly, glassy vision is alive again. Refined, smarter, but still nostalgic. frutigeraero wasn't just a UI style, it was a dream. A dream that technology could be joyful, that computers weren't just tools, but portals into a magical, bubbly world. We might never go back, but if you look closely, in new UI, in nostalgic revivals, the dream still lingers. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, because this video took ages to edit. Thank you for watching.